Apex Legends has officially turned 2 years old, and since its release in 2019, it's gone through some significant changes for the better. In my review of the game at launch, I was very torn on the concept. At the time, I was halfway through writing a script on why I found it impossible to enjoy the battle royale genre at all. On one hand, Apex Legends was a serious step up from anything we'd seen before. People tend to forget how revolutionary this game was at launch, with methods of traveling faster, the ability to respawn teammates, and the insanely well implemented ping system, all taken for granted in the genre today. However, with all of these efforts to alleviate the natural challenges of making a battle royale, I couldn't help but feel as if Titanfall 3 had died for this admittedly super well polished game to live. And as a huge fan of Titanfall, as I'm sure viewers are already aware, this was a hard pill to swallow. Ultimately, I took quite a long break from Apex, playing Overwatch, Siege, and apparently hiring a news team. I lost interest for a time, and I stopped keeping up with news. But at some point at the start of this year, I decided to jump back in, and holy shit, I wasn't disappointed. With 2 entirely new maps, and double the number of playable legends since launch, this game has come a long way from its infancy, and its new additions really allow players to approach the game in more interesting ways. With Respawn adding legends so frequently, they tend to gradually fix a lot of personal problems that people have with the game. Players who think the gameplay is too slow gravitate toward Octane for his insane mobility. Players who want a specific loadout or want to streamline looting will pick Loba for her ability to procure almost anything she wants. And of course, people who are absolute scum of the earth seem to exclusively play Wraith. Genuinely good players who play Wraith are done dirty by their comrades, because like the One Ring, corrupting whoever it touches, Wraith just seems to convince players to start a Twitch channel, drop a loan, and speedrun a disconnect as soon as they get downed.
Oh fuck no. Twitch TV Wraith, man, this is gonna be terrible. You watch, as soon as they die, they're insta disconnecting. They're not waiting for nobody. Oh, look at him. Wonder what he's up to. Oh no. He fucking disconnected! What the fuck?
What all this variety in playstyles tends to lead into is a game that supports a lot of different ways to play, depending on your team composition. If you have a particularly mobile team who can engage and get the fuck out extremely quickly, it becomes incredibly viable to spend the entire match ambushing squads who aren't grouped up to steal their hard-earned loot for yourself. Alternatively, you can run a team who specializes in finding the location of the next zone, beelining it to a defensible building, and making yourself stupid hard to kill. Sometimes you don't always get the luxury to choose how you play, and getting nearly wiped out necessitates a more cautious approach to where you go, and when, and if, you decide to fight. With this in mind, pulling off a win after you've been forced into playing as scavenging rats for half the game is not a single bit less satisfying than doing so with a fully decked out set of weapons and armor. This is in part why I don't understand these smooth brain motherfuckers who disconnect at the first sign of trouble, getting the absolute shit kicked out of your squad, only to survive by the insane and desperate dash of your last teammate alive, and knowing that they went through absolute hell to get you back, should do nothing but consolidate a need to win, because you now owe that crazy bastard your life. Even if you need to push that man's AFK body into the zone one step at a time, you'll gladly do so, because he would have done the same if he were in your position. This is the kind of camaraderie that you can find in your loyal to a fault teammates, and it physically hurts to know that these GTV motherfuckers will never know what it's like to feel this kind of unconditional love.
God, it's a fucking Wraith main, this is cringe. So our Wraith mains are AFK. How is our Wraith main still alive? I fucking hate Wraith mains. Even when they're fucking AFK, they can't fucking do anything right. How is our Wraith main still alive? There are gunshots in that area and our Wraith main is still alive. Look, I can't believe our Wraith is reaping these rewards right now. She can get fucked, in my opinion. Oh, don't you fucking DC. I hate this!
As much as I've come to adore Apex and the beautiful title it has become, this doesn't mean I don't think it has room for improvement. In fact, a lot of the criticism I'm about to say is more related to the battle royale genre as a whole, but since Respawn is such a stupidly talented studio known for their innovative ideas, I'm going to be holding them to a higher standard. The biggest problem I see with Apex today is that there's often not an incentive to take fights. As crazy as this sounds, considering the huge potential for better gear and the incredible system that lets your armor upgrade upon dealing damage, this game has a real problem with third squads cleaning up fights. In fact, a lot of the time I'm extremely opposed to initiating an easy ambush, because with how fast teams can engage in this game, getting caught licking your wounds after you've just won a fight is often a death sentence for the winning team. A common strategy in the game is to just rat around two teams fighting and clean up the now crippled winners before they even have a chance to compose themselves. Alternatively, if we are running a loba, we can just rat around 100 meters away and use a black market as soon as the fight is over to yoink all the best shit from the labor of the hard-working bastards who got shot at. I'm personally super okay with loba having this ability because that's very much a situational strategy in her niche, but third squadding is still a big problem for battle royales that developers haven't seemed to quite figure out. It's hard to say whether they're a bug or just a feature of such a chaotic environment, but I don't see them going away anytime soon without a serious rethink of what the whole battle royale genre should look like. Always remember, you don't need to kill half the server to win the game. You just need to kill the one person that counts. This next criticism is going to sound unreasonably picky, but allow me to explain. I personally think that being dead should be just as fun as being alive. This comes from the old philosophy of Titanfall 2, where losing a game was more fun than winning, as you'd then be able to receive all the equivalent rewards for a win by beelining it to a dropship and making it out safe. Currently, when you're dead in Apex, you need to sit tight for a teammate to recover your banner and hopefully get you to a respawn point safe and sound. However, during this time, you're able to do very little to interact with the game and contribute to your team, but it doesn't necessarily need to be like this. One of the most underrated battle royale games, Hyperscape, allowed dead players to wander around as a kind of ghost. In this form, they're invisible to all players and can't interact with the world at all, but are able to ping items and the locations of nearby enemies. Their teammates could then revive them at the death boxes of any other fallen player on the map, at which time they'd be back in the game. In terms of a kind of guardian angel role, it's not like this system isn't already established in the lore of Apex, and there's nothing to say it can't be expanded to be even more enjoyable. Perhaps dead players could boost the combat effectiveness of living players by reloading their stowed weapon, or granting small passives like gradual health regen, or faster ability cooldown. Maybe dead players can scout for loot, and even teleport some of the more noteworthy items to their surviving players. Possibly their time could be spent trying to hack care packages to land near their team's location, or even reviving the last player in your squad from the brink of death. Obviously I'm not a game designer, and I'm just saying shit that sounds like fun from the perspective of a dead player, but if Respawn really thought about this kind of system, I see no reason why it couldn't be balanced with character specific abilities, or a ghost skill tree on its own. Making losing fun is a mark of an extremely talented developer, and there's no doubt that Respawn has any lack of talent to make it happen. Another problem of interest in my modest opinion is that although it feels really fucking good to win, it often isn't properly reflected in terms of rewards. I see this as a twofold problem. Firstly, beating 20 other teams to come out victorious doesn't even reward you with something as basic as a loot box or single way to more tangibly show off your wins. Fucking banner customization barely counts. I'd personally like those stupid expensive heirloom rewards to be grinded with wins, but I'm not naive enough to know that it will probably never happen. With this being said, fucking 300 wins for a cool knife isn't exactly an unreasonable reward. The other side of winning I'd like to see changed once again circles back around to the scum of the earth wraith mains who disconnect at the first sign of trouble. All I fucking want is a message that tells these fucking degenerates that their team went on to win, specifically because playing in their absence shred the burden of their company from their shoulders.
Look at the way he's going. He's going in a straight line straight back.
He just left.
Wait, what? What the fuck is it with Wraith players and just not playing the game?
The last criticism I have is once again a small gripe. I think the crafting system in the game is so fucking underutilized, and it breaks my heart to see it this undervalued. For viewers who might not have played since launch, Apex has now implemented a system where opening containers and emptying tubs of what I assume is the shit Gwyneth Paltrow sells gives you crafting material, which can then be spent on a handful of things that are currently in rotation. This in itself is pretty fucking nice, and it means that if a particular attachment is in rotation, you might be more inclined to change your weapon choices, as you know it'll be easier to deck yourself out before the end of the game. My criticism is that I want this shit to be cranked all the way up, so that if you really wanted to do so, you could get whatever your heart desires from these replicators. To do this, I'd implement some kind of scrapping system where anything from weapons, attachments, and armor could be thrown into a shredder and exchanged for material as a way to clear out your unwanted shit for something you might actually like. You could even put overpowered shit like Krabers or gold equipment in there and just make them stupid expensive for the meme, because no matter what price you put on those top tier items, players will still shred their entire inventory for the chance to hold that elusive 50 caliber sniper in their ratty little hands. This also extends to another problem with the game, where sometimes just a single attachment can be the difference between throwing and being a god among men who shall be feared by all mortals less powerful than thee. The devotion is a pretty substandard weapon without attachments, but get that shit decked out by the end circle, and there's absolutely fucking nothing that I'd rather be shooting at the enemy. Having more freedom to go out of my way to build towards the late game would be a welcome addition, especially if it means you can convert well-won loot for items you might still be trying to find. With all of these criticisms in mind, you also have to consider that oftentimes this unregulated madness is regularly the very thing that keeps this game so consistently fun. Long-time viewers will know that, at least in my own opinion, the potential for pulling off unconventional bullshit pretty much directly correlates with how much I enjoy a title, and Apex Legends has this shit in spades. Let's take Mirage for example. Nothing about his skill set actually deals any damage or gives your team any form of mobility, but his ability to confuse and disorient enemy squads is extremely powerful if you heavily lean into his potential to get away with shit that no other legend could ever hope to achieve. All of a sudden it becomes less about clicking heads and more about getting inside the mind of your enemy, knowing that you're now in control of what they see and what they believe. This is the kind of power trip that damage-based characters just don't offer, but you can inject this feeling directly into my veins any day of the week. Most players seriously underestimate the shit they can get away with if they just act like they belong somewhere, kind of like how wearing a high visibility shirt can get you into any IRL location if you exude enough confidence. Other strategies don't need to be nearly as complicated. For example, Fuse is able to carry twice the amount of grenades as any other legend. However, theoretically, he can effectively carry exponentially more if he forgoes non-essential items like healing or ammo. It doesn't matter how fucking good another team is or how much coordination they possess. If you can lob 15 grenades in the space of half a minute directly on their heads, no amount of frothy level MLG wizardry will stop them from getting more crushed than my dreams of Titanfall 3. These kinds of bullshit strategies get even more fun when you start combining your abilities like goddamn superheroes, like kidnapping enemies as wraiths into a pit of death and watching them panic for a way to get back to the warm embrace of their team and their accumulated 6 trillion health packs. These strategies don't even need to be gameplay related at all. For the longest time, we've had a very particular friend whose favorite thing in the whole fucking world is to take fights far away from the rest of the team. In fact, one of the reasons I play so much Loba is because this degenerate comes back whenever I place a black market, effectively keeping him on a leash with a 90-second cooldown. After one night of this team separation becoming quite a serious burden for our win rate, we decided to look at our problem at a completely new perspective. Instead of us trying to be a voice of reason in his ever chaotic world, we would instead renounce our free will and reluctantly crown him as our undisputed glorious leader. He was our God King. We would fight to win his affection, and no order would be questioned under any circumstance, as the glorious leader does not make mistakes. The very first time we run this strategy, and the dumb fuck goes AFK for half the game, sees absolutely zero combat, then goes on to clean up the battered and bruised last squad, just coming out of a fight, giving us a 100% win rate under his rule. What a fucking joke.
What are we thinking, lads?
I'm thinking the glorious leader is wise and all-knowing.
Tell me how you're feeling in your roles.
I'm feeling that the glorious leader knows best. I honor the great leader with my smoke.
I must find a legendary to give to the glorious leader. I must not be outdone by this smoke-wielding fool. Glorious leader! Glorious leader!
Glorious leader, look.
Oh,
Glorious leader! Would you like...
We both found.
No,
Right, only-
no glorious leader!
only
I found
one-
it!
Alright, who found the golden armor or it will be cut in half? Now, who found the golden armor? Who found the gold armor? Somebody tell me right now or it dies.
It was I, glorious leader!
Do you agree?
Someone else.
Do you agree that he found it?
Yes.
Alright, alright. Now the blue
I
armor...
take of your blue armor.
Of course, of course. For finding the gold armor, of course you can take my old rags.
If people had asked me if a battle royale would end up being my favorite game to play when Apex launched, I thought it would be impossible, especially when it meant the developers were working on this instead of a sequel to my favorite shooter of all time. However, with the devs working at a steady pace to consistently improve the game and add more content every few months, I think I finally understand the hype for battle royales as a whole, even if I'm nearly 4 years late to the party. With some very exciting teasers for Titanfall based content into the future, Apex will absolutely remain a go-to game for my own amusement going forward.
My friend's probably gonna leave immediately.
Yeah, probably. He's playing fucking Wraith. Yeah, there we go. Fucking typical Wraith.
Did he have a
Did he have
TTV in his name?
TTV in his name?
I love that you both asked that.
So